All right, folks, here we are. Honda Accord, rear brakes, brake pads, and rotors. All right. You saw in my other video the problem with this brake pad or this brakes here is because the pedal went to the floor, but it stopped. And I had showed you that there's a gap. There's a gap in the brake pad right there. Okay. So by the time you step on the brakes, that brake piston or the pad is going to travel before it hits that brake rotor. So it's a good 3 to 4 inches of brake travel by the time that piece starts to hit the brake rotor. Okay, so the problem with that is most of the time is the hardware here is frozen. The pin here is frozen and is not allowing the sliding caliper to slide. That's why it's called a sliding caliper. I'm going to show you what we did on this side after we did the brake pads and the rotors. Okay, anchored right here for you. Okay, see, it's supposed to slide. That's the way it's designed. Okay, slide, slide, slide. Down here. Okay, so when you step on the brakes, brake fluid comes in here, pushes the piston in there, and when this slides, it slides over and it squeezes the brake like that, almost like a bicycle brake. Okay, bicycle brake, you squeeze it, pulls a cable, and it grabs both sides. But since there's no cable here, it works on hydraulics. The hydraulic pushes the piston pushes out, and with that, this thing slides and actually grabs the outer pad. See it? It's going to grab the outer pad and squeeze it. The problem with this side was it wasn't grabbing the pad. All right, it stops eventually. You know what I mean? If you're not driving too crazy and you don't have to do like a quick stop. But yeah, that's the way we have to do and fix this. Okay. Now the other thing was, if noticed when you have aluminum wheels, they don't come off too well because this is like steel. Okay, and that's an aluminum. The two different types of metals do not like each other. So you see the aluminum wheel corroded and went on here. Okay, and I'll show you the back of this. See that? That corrosion right there, all the way around. It's gonna lock this wheel on that hub, and you're not gonna be able to get this wheel off. Especially if you get it flat on the road, because you need something to knock it off. I mean, you don't have a hammer to hit it, so when you're on the street, what are you gonna do? All right. So clean this all up before it goes back. Sand that wheel down, nice and smooth to aluminum. Put a little high temperature grease on it, not too much, just enough. All right. But these are the rotors that we're using from AutoZone. 44594DL. These are the gold brake pads. DG1336. Comes with the hardware. All right, so you guys want to know how to do these brakes? All right, let's start. 12mm top and bottom. Takes off the bolts for the caliper. Okay, put that off to the side. Take the caliper off, give it a little wiggle, it'll come out. All right, got the emergency brake assembly in there, so it holds it nice and firm. It's not going to put a stress on the brake hose, so you're okay. Then it comes with these two little tiny clips. These are actually designed to keep the pads a little bit away from the rotor. They're not strong. Listen, they're like a freaking paper clip. All right, so they come off pretty easy. Most of the hardware that comes in a brake pad will not come with those little clips. Okay, a lot of people don't even put them back in. Matter of fact, some cheap brake pads don't even have the little holes, okay, to use that little thing. So don't worry about that. If you have it, put it back. If you don't have it, listen, a lot of people throw it out. They don't really care. Now in the back, there's two 17mm bolts, one on the top, one on the bottom. What that does is holds this brake caliper bracket. Okay, so I'm going to take this, We'll take this one on the top off, a little bit harder. Once you take the two 17mm bolts off, put them onto the side, this whole bracket assembly will pop right out. You can take it with the brake pads and then knock it out later, or knock out the brake pads if you want. All right, see this brake pad over here? This little round dot right there in the middle, right here. All right, that locks up in there for the piston. So when you do the emergency brake and it pulls it up, it actually spins the little gear in there and it locks it. All right, so we're gonna have to clean this up. Wire brush it. Make sure everything moves nice and smooth. As for the rotor has two screws here that hold it in. Okay, you need a tool like this. It's like an impact screwdriver. Okay, basically you're gonna put it in here, put a little pressure on it while you're turning lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Take a nice little sledgehammer and hit that. When you hit that, it gives a little impact and it will spin this screw out. Okay, make sure you use the right screw. Look at this, watch. This sits in there nicely, flush. This is the right Phillips. Don't go and use a different one, like for argument's sake, this style, which is a little bit more pointier. Watch how it sits in here. See? It sits, but it doesn't sit flush. So you're gonna end up stripping either the screw, or you're gonna strip the bit itself, which looks like somebody tried it once before. See that? See, when you loan a tool out, people don't pay attention to your stuff, then they give it back to you. You see, it doesn't fit. Look, it doesn't fit flush to it. Okay, that's why you're just grabbing it by the tip. Okay, use the right tool. Fits nice and flush. You get the whole enchilada. See that? Grabs the screw right nice and flush. So when I spin these things off, and then I'm going to knock this rotor off. Now to knock the rotor off, you can do a couple of things. You got a little tiny screwdriver. You could try to pry some of that crud away. Or you can shoot some WD-40 on it. PB blaster, whichever you guys like to use. Look at that crud. Because this will prevent you from taking this rotor off. Sometimes you can't even freaking get this stuff off. You gotta get like a little tiny chisel and chisel it off. That's how much corrosion is on this from the aluminum wheel. Believe me, people, if you get a flat tire or dressed up, you do not want to change a flat tire. Yeah, I know, you got AAA. All right, people say, I got AAA. That's what they got paid them for. Okay, so if you got AAA, then what the hell are you doing brakes on yourself for? What are you doing? Doesn't make sense, does it? You pay somebody to fix your flat, but yet you'll trust yourself to do your own brakes. If you know what you're doing. So, clean as much as we can here for now. And once we do that, this rotor should pop right out. Then we're going to sand and we're going to clean it. So, get the old sledge here. A little tap. Comes right out. Goes out with a little, still a little tight there. I'm gonna have to use two hands to pull this one out. There you go. Perfect. Dun, dun, dun. Out it goes. All right. Wow, look at the back. Just by looking at it, you can tell the brake pads were hardly being used. At least this side, because it's so far away. All right. And you can see the little lip right there. Okay. That's how much the metal is worn. Right there. See that? Used to be flush. All right. So Time to clean up the area. Clean up that bracket over there. And we're on to the next thing. Oh, and there's a special tool here to push the piston in. I have a whole kit. Otherwise, you could buy the little square that they have. Okay. Got the little 2 tabs. You line it up in there. What you do is you turn it to the right and push in at the same time. So as you spin it, it goes all the way in. If it's giving you a hard time, then you might need a caliper. Okay, but it should be pretty easy spinning in. Easy peasy. All right, and then before you put it back, just make sure that is straight across. I got to turn that back. So when you're looking at it, it should be like 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Okay. All right, let's continue. All right, so here we are. We're at the point where we cleaned up the hub. Took a nice wire brush on the drill. Cleaned up the area for the wheel. Okay. Made it nice and clean. So I won't have that problem no more. Clean up the rotor with brake cleaner. Get the oil off of it. And now we are going to do the bracket. Okay. Comes with hardware, the brake pads. So I'm going to take these clips off here. They usually pop right out. Okay. We're going to wire brush this nice and clean. Check these things here out. This is the one that was frozen. This is the one that moves nice and easy. Okay. That's what you want. You want it to go in and out and slide. Okay, this is the one that's frozen. So I'm going to have to spin this one. Let me see if I can get this one to go a little bit. All right, I'm going to wire brush it, make it nice and clean, put in new hardware. Let's do that. All right, here's your bracket, nice and clean. Okay. Took the pin out, looped it up. They move nice and easy now. Okay, better with 2 hands, but get the idea. Okay. Nice and easy. All right, change the clips. Put this one on here, on this side. You only go on one way. Can't mess it up. Snap, snap. Make sure they're not in the groove where they're messing up the rotor. Okay. And then we're gonna put the bracket on. There you go. Press it on nice and tight. Like I said, right there in the middle where the rotor rides, we want to make sure that the bracket is centered. Okay, because otherwise it's going to hit the rotor. All right, so let's put this on there. Put back the 2 17mm bolts. Throw this rotor on there with the 2 screws. Let's continue. All right, put the rotor on. Put these screws on here. Ta-da! Put it on there nice and hand tight for now. Okay, I'm going to use the sledge. I'm going to tighten them up real quick. Got to put you down for a second. All right, once you put your caliper bracket on, tighten it to specs, 17mm. All right, it's all nice and clean. Now I'm going to put the brake pads on. Brake pads go on nicely. Put the rears in first. Doesn't matter really. I'll put this one in here. Should go on with no problem. Okay, if it's binding, then something's wrong. Okay, either you bent this, or maybe some of the brake pads, the little castings are a little rough, and that's what give you a problem. Don't forget those 2 little tiny clips. There's one here, fits in the hole. The other one is here somewhere. Here it is. That one in there. Perfect. See what it does? It pops the, puts tension on the brake pads. So sometimes you're fighting that while you're putting the caliper on. All right, the caliper, don't forget. Use that tool turn your emergency brake, make sure it's straight up and down. That's what you want. Okay, you want it straight up and down, or close to it, and then the caliper will go right over it. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. I'm killing myself. Okay, just like that, like that. Perfect. Okay, got to put a little tension on it because of those little springs. And then now we're going to put the little 12mm bolts on there before it pops out on me. Must be something big going on. It's a big fire. A lot of fires going around lately. All right, I'll put that on, tighten it to specs, and then pump the brakes, and you are good to go. All right, that's what it's gonna look like before the fire truck comes get me. All right, that's it. Rear brakes, Honda Accord, and I showed you what the problem was with this one, with the gap, right? All right, thanks for watching, people. Ciao. They're coming to get me.